Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider. Tell us what you think in the comments and follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. And make sure you sign up to the newsletter, the weekly newsletter, where you get all the best tips from our handicappers across a range of sports. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is Nigel Seeley to look ahead to the start of the grass court season. The women are playing at Queen's Club for the first time. That's a 500, and there's a 250 at Hertogenbosch in the Netherlands. But first, Nigel, we'd better look back at the French Open. We said the bottom half was the way to go. Didn't quite get it right, though, did we? Coco Gauff won it. What do you take from that tournament?
Well, I mean, a good afternoon to you. It's been like ages that we've had a chat. That's been the tournament's gone on. Well, I was a bit disappointed really because I broke down the mathematical reasons why there was two players in the bottom half of the draw that were each way bet, and I went with Andreeva rather than Coco Gauff. If anyone had followed me on social media would have known that I was quite keen on on Coco Gauff as well. So I was a little bit disappointed that I went with Andreeva on the show and not the two of them, but it was probably not the logic at the prices that Bet Rivers were offering. So I went with the bigger price. Really, really disappointed with Andreeva on that match against Bosson. I mean, it's just a complete and utter meltdown. The girl's a huge amount of talent, and she's got to go away now and work with her coach and Conchita Martinez and work out what went wrong and if she can bounce back from that in such a quick turnaround with Wimbledon just around the corner. So I was really disappointed with that. I thought Coco Gauff was brilliant, and I know she showed some tremendous character. I mean, she was 3-0 down in the first set, breakdown. She lost the second set. She lost the first set in a tie-break, dominated in the tie-break. This was a Sabalenka who produced a brilliant performance against Świątek. And I've always said with Sabalenka, if you can get at her, I think she's vulnerable. She blames everything around her. She blames, shamelessly, I've joked about some of the things she said about her team. Where I know she's probably joking here, but there is that sort of, once you get to that part of her, she doesn't like losing. And once she's on her ropes, I'm not quite sure whether she's, I think she's a bit of a bully in terms of betting for the tennis betting. But I think it was great for the women's game. I think Gauff was exceptional. I think she was a worthy winner. She played well. She had her problems with her double faults, but she come through. And in the final, I thought she was excellent. So it's exciting times for women's tennis. Iga Świątek is obviously on the backwards scale. Arina Sabalenka is obviously beatable. Gauff coming through. Andreeva's got question marks about her mentality. Bosson coming through, which was one of the best stories of the week. So all in all, I quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than the men's, to be fair. And I haven't seen the final yet of the men's, but I thought there was more stories in the women's game than the men's.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I mean, I went for Madison Keys, and she had her chances against Gauff in the quarterfinal. I mean, I look back and I'm still quite happy with my Keys bet because she was $40 and Gauff was $5 or $6, and that quarterfinal could have gone either way. But as you say, Gauff a worthy winner, and that final she showed such character, as you say, to come back.
She come alive. It felt as though Coco Gauff grew up. This week, she was except she's 21 years of age. She's got a brilliant future, and that was a defining moment in her career. And I think she's going to take big heart from that. She's now got a winning head-to-head record against Sabalenka, and I don't think she's got anything to fear. Probably, obviously, the conditions were great on the quicker surface at Wimbledon. Maybe it'll be a different level playing field, but I do think that was a great win. The other thing I would say is obviously with Sabalenka is that Sabalenka's going to come back. She's going to be favourites. I also, during that quarterfinal, I bet Madison Keys to win Wimbledon.
Well done.
Yeah,
yes, you've finally seen the light, Nigel.
I did. I bet Rivers are taking no chances, let me say. They're
really
10-1 on Madison Keys to win Wimbledon. But if you're looking at Wimbledon betting and you want to bet Wimbledon, Madison Keys was the takeout from that week. So I have joined you on that one, Rory. So I'm on the Madison Keys train, choo-choo, heading down to SW19.
Yeah, I got on during the Australian Open at 33s, so that would be nice, but a long way to go before then. And Keys is in action this week as the women go to Queen's Club. We're starting the build up towards Wimbledon. Quite a few of the top names not playing this week. No Sabalenka, no Gauff, no Świątek, who is now down to number 7 in the world. That's extraordinary. But we're going to Queen's Club. as opposed to SW19 Wimbledon, it's W14 Barons Court, West Kensington. I actually used to live down the road from there. This is a 32-player draw, and the top 4 seeds get byes. No previous form to go on here. Weather-wise, I suppose, Nigel, you'd better give us a weather forecast, as it's not that far from you.
Well, at the moment, it's quite sunny. Out the window, it's quite sunny, but there's a lot of cloud around. I think it gets better as the week goes on. I think the early start, Monday, Tuesday, a little bit of some showers, and it's going to be a little bit of on and off courts for the first couple of days. But then we get in the latter part of the week, it gets quite warm. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday looks pretty good, but unsettled. I mean, it's not going to be a tournament that's not going to have a lot of stop-starts. And I think that's an important factor, because I think you need to be a bit of an experienced player to be able to handle these rain breaks, because it's unusual to have so many rain breaks until they come over to the UK, and then we get these kind of rain breaks at Wimbledon and these build-up tournaments from the grass. So that experience might be important, but the weather looks a bit unsettled. But as we get into next week, it does brighten up, and I'm there Wednesday. You can follow me at Because We Win on our socials, and I'll be reporting from there. But Thursday, Friday do look the better days. So a cloudy start, bit of rain, overcast, sunshine and showers, and then later on it gets a little bit better.
Now, the draw was made yesterday. If the quarterfinals work out as per the seedings, Qin Zheng is the top seed. Not really a player known for her grass court form, but she'll play reigning Wimbledon champion Barbara Krejcikova, who's barely played this year due to injury. Emma Navarro in Q2 against Amanda Anisimova. Karolina Mukova, who went out in the first round at Roland Garros, I think, or did she even play?
Yeah, No, she did. She got beat by the girl that I always phase, wasn't it? I can't remember who it was now, but
Alicia Parks.
Alicia Parks, yeah.
That's it. Yeah. She put out Mukova, and Mukova will face Jelena Rybakina in Q3 if they both get that far. And in the bottom quarter, with Madison Keys against Deanna Schneider. Nigel, there are a few dangers in this draw, and most of them seem to be in the bottom half.
Yeah, I mean, the draw came out yesterday, and it's not a bad tournament, actually. It's some good players in there. Zheng, the Olympic champion. You've got, the Rybakina, former Wimbledon champion, Madison Keys, the current Australian Open, the current Wimbledon champion. And obviously, the big hope for the UK bettors is Emma Raducanu. And I said off air, I actually would rather bet Emma Raducanu this week than fade her, which is unusual for me, but certainly not at the prices that the Bet Rivers are offering, which I'll come on to in a little while. But I do expect a good week from Emma Raducanu. The one thing about the draw is the draw is very lopsided. The top half of the draw is the part of the draw you want to be in, and I explain the importance of each way betting with Bet Rivers and the probability of people getting to the final, not to the final. And I think this is another draw where it's very, very lopsided. So most of my betting attention and most of my attention has been in the top half of the draw. In the top half of the draw, you've got Zheng, the number 1 seed, the Olympic champion, who isn't a grass court player. Her best form is on clay. Obviously, her big tournament is the French Open. She's coming into her back, very good French Open. Historically, on the men's tour, more than the women's tour, that play, we've got no data for this tournament, but you don't really want to be getting with players who've gone deep in a major before when you transition across the grass. If you look at the warm-up events we've just done with Sean on the ATP, there's nobody who ever got past the third round of the French Open has ever gone on one of the men's events the following week. So I think that must be an important factor here. So Zheng obviously went deep. If you look at her grass court record in her career, it's awful. She's only had 3 wins in 11 matches, 3 wins and 8 losses. Now, I don't care who you are, that is going to be different, especially when you've got the quick transition. So Zheng is definitely a fade for me. I mean, she's the most likely person to come through the top half of the draw. She's the number 1 seed, but at 4 to we bet Rose, she's not a good bet for me. But I'm looking at the top half of the draw to find some value. The bottom half stacked with Rybakina, Keys, Schneider, Mukova, Fernandez. It's a lopsided draw where you want to put all your betting attention in the top half. So
let's have a look at the odds for the women at Queen's Club. Jelena Rybakina, the plus 240 favourite. Madison Keys and Qin Zheng, both $4. Raducanu, $7. Daria Kasatkina, 14, same price for Emma Navarro. Amanda Anisimova and Leylah Fernandez and Karolina Mukova, $18. Katie Bolter, 28, along with Barbara Krejcikova, and it's $33 bar those. Got to say, on first looking at those, I mean, as you said, the top half is easier, and Raducanu, I was interested by it, but not at $7. Just looks too short. I'm really surprised to see Schneider a bigger price than Bolter after seeing the way she demolished her in Hong Kong last year. But
well, they will play each other in round 2. So
yeah,
if they both win their match, that's probably an angle for a bet, for a match bet.
Yeah, I suspect it will be a pick 'em bet, but I'd definitely be over Schneider. So you're looking at the top half. Which one?
Well, Schneider's a big price, actually. I think 33 on Schneider's a big price, but I just can't get out of my head the meltdown that she had, in that match in Rome. It was just in the semi-finals against Paolini. That's fresh in my mind. It's got to be fresh in her mind. Let's have a look at the leading contenders. Obviously, I said there, Zhang has got a terrible grass court record, only 3 wins in her career. Big fade. Raducanu at the price 7-1 is she could go deep in this tournament. The draw has been pretty favourable to her, but it is no value whatsoever. She could be playing the Wimbledon champion in round number 2 in Krejcikova. Obviously she's blighted by injuries, but that is a tough ask. And then she could run into Zhang, the Olympic champion, and then she could run into Navarro and Anisimova before she even got to the final there, where she's got Rebecca or Keys. So 7-1 Raducanu is not a price, but I do think she could go deep in this tournament. But at mathematically on the prices, she's no bet whatsoever. In the bottom half of the draw, obviously it's stacked. Rebecca, Schneider, Keys. My worry for Rebecca and Keys is that they went deep at the French Open. It's a very, very quick turnaround, just a matter of a week, some days for some of these players to come over. Not far to travel, but obviously the transition from the slow Roland Garros courts to the quick courts in London is a big factor, and they worry me, and they especially worry me at the prices. Rebecca plus 240, Keys $4. If they had some grass court form under their belts, and this was like 2 weeks down the line, I might be looking at them in this match. But to come in cold, essentially, I think they're two difficult prices. You would expect. I think Rebecca and Keys will meet in the semi-final, and I think whoever wins that is going to be obviously the person or the lady that's going to be the most likely to win the tournament. So I've gone for the top half of the draw, and I've just tried to pick out a little bit of each way value. Obviously, we've got Kvitova in there, another former Wimbledon champion. She's up against Haddad Maia. Kvitova is not the player since she's come back from giving birth to her baby. She's not the player that we know. She knows she can probably turn it on a little bit on this surface, but I think her glory days have gone. Katlakina, completely inconsistent. Anisimova, not a grass court player for me. So that really rules it out by the process of elimination to Emma Navarro. And I think Emma Navarro here is a big price at 14-1. She would be my bet. She obviously got humiliated in the first round of the French Open. She was beaten by Buzes Menero, 6-love, 6-1. Absolute humiliation. But clay is not her surface. I mean, if you look at her clay records this year, apart from the tournament in Charleston, where she got to the quarterfinals, European clay, she's been beat pretty early in every single round. She hasn't really done anything, and she wasn't expected to do anything. The American hard courts campaign is where she comes into her own, and Wimbledon and her grass form, she's pretty good. She's probably got in the top half of the draw, she's probably got one of the best grass court records than anyone in this competition. In 2024, she played 10 grass court matches, won 7, lost 3. She made the quarterfinals of Wimbledon. She beat Goff on grass. She beat Schneider. She beat Osaka, which is really, really good form. In the tournament before that, she played in Bad Homburg, where she got to the semi-final. She beat Wozniacki in the quarterfinal. She lost to Schneider in the semi-final, but that was a close match, a very, very close match. So 7-3 in 2024, 7-3 in 2023, where she got to the final in the Ilkley tournament on grass. She got to the semi-finals in Bad Homburg, and she lost in the first round at Wimbledon to Alexandrova, which isn't a bad thing because Alexandrova is a very, very capable grass court player, and we'll come on to her in a minute. So I think we just got to overlook the clay form. I know the manner of the defeat was such a shocking defeat that people probably just can't overlook it, but I think she's going to be the most prepared person over here. She would have definitely come over here before all the others. She would have practiced on the courts. She's on a court and conditions that suit her. And with a favourable draw, she's a bet. And I think, obviously, as well, she's got the bonus that she starts in the round of 16. She's already got a buy. Zhang's got a buy, and Zhang is 4-1. Rebecca has got a buy. She's 240. Keys has got a buy. She's plus $4. And Navarro's got to buy, and arguably she's got as good a grass court form as anybody, barring the top two in the market, and she's $14. So just from a value perspective, I'm going to have a half a point each way on Emma Navarro at 14-1, because I think that top half is really, really open to get 7-1 about her in the final. There's question marks about Krejcikova. Raducanu's too short a price. Kim Min-jeong I can't have on the surface. Anisimova isn't a grass court player. Kazatkina too inconsistent. And by process of elimination, I've gone for an Emma Navarro at 14. I think it's a big price.
You've missed out one player in that top half, or a couple. And there's one I'm thinking, and it's a real shot in the dark. Petra Kvitova, 2-time Wimbledon champion. And I think, that top half is so weak in terms of, as you say, in terms of proven grass court players. And Kvitova, I mean, she lost in the first round of the French to Victoria Golubic, who's pretty useful on clay. She took a set off her. She was 6-4 in the third. She's $50. I'd rather bet her to win her match.
Not after a couple of matches, because there is the huge factor that she might not be fit. She could bow out if she gets to like the quarterfinals, or say she gets to the last 16 and she's looking good. I'd rather take a shorter price on her, knowing that she's in good form, rather than take the chance on her now. Because what we've seen from her, Rory, since her return,
it's not been great.
It's not been good at all. And there has been, she has played in tournaments where you would expect her,
like Miami.
Yeah, and she was dry. I don't think she's even. She won one match. I think she's won one match.
She's won one. Yeah,
she's lost. I think she's played. One match she won. She beat Begu in Rome, but she's been beaten the first round in every single match, and that would be a little bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, she's $50, and she's got Haddad Maia in the first round, who's also in pretty dire form. I mean, she showed signs of. It was weird because she looked like she was coming back in Rome, and then she didn't do very well at Roland Garros. And I think on grass,
she's the underdog. She's the underdog against Haddad Maia. Haddad Maia's the favourite, which is quite surprising. But they've met twice before on grass, and it's one win apiece. So I don't know. I just think I can see what you're saying, but I think I want to see one match of. I want to see if the serve is serving well. We've seen it before when people come back from grass. Grass is one surface where you can have a freaky week, and your serve can get you through it. And we see Goran Ivanisevic win Wimbledon after years in the doldrums, come back, served his way through. And Kvitova has got the serve to do it. There's a lot of other surfaces where you need a lot of movement. This could be the points could be over very quickly here. So her fitness levels doesn't need to be as high they would be for the French. But I would want to see a little bit more than one win in her 7 matches on return.
I'm going to have a quarter point each way on her at $50, just because it just looks so weak. And as you say, that bottom half is stacked. I mean, Schneider was the one who interested me at $33. Even Vekic at $33, although she's not been in great form. But anyone, I mean, it will most likely be Rebecca and Keys in the semi in the bottom half, but the top half, who knows? I mean, Raducanu would have been my pick, but I'd have liked double $7, to be perfectly honest. But I'm just going to have a speculative quarter of a point each way on Kvitova and see what happens. So your bet is, was it half a point?
Half a point each way, Emma Navarro, 14-1.
There we go. We're going to move on to Hertogenbosch, or Rosmalen, if you prefer. I think that's the actual town, isn't it? Nigel, you've been there.
I've never been there, but Sean Campbell's been there, and he corrected me on it earlier today when we recorded Game Bet Match.
Okay. So, the town's called Rosmalen, and it's across the North Sea from England. Lyudmila Samsonova defends her title. She beat Bianca Andreescu in last year's final. Yekaterina Alexandrova edged out Veronika Kudermetova in 2023. That saw the Russian retain her title. She beat Arina Sabalenka in 2022. Before that, you've got to go back to 2019, before the pandemic, where Alison Risk defeated Kiki Bertens in the final. So that's the previous winners. The weather's not too clever tomorrow, should be brighter by the end of the week. Last year, it was played very quick. Yep. Service hold percentage of 74.3, which placed it third overall. So, Nigel, we're looking at definitely here a preference for big servers in recent years.
Yeah, and it's the recent years has been dominated by the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. Not historically number 1 and number 2 seeds, but the number 1 and number 2 seeds in this tournament. I mean, the last 3 editions have been won by either Samsonova or Alexandrova. Alexandrova won in 2023 and 2022. Samsonova won it last year. So, and those two are the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. It's a tournament where the number 1 seed doesn't really do very well. You've got to go back 15 years ago to the last number 1 seed that won this tournament. It was Justine Henin. So they've got to the final. Sabalenka's got to the final here as a number 1 seed, got beat. She got beat by Alexandrova. So, yeah, number 1 seeds do not do very well, which is a little bit of a concern. But when you look at this draw and you look at this, break this down, I don't think there's a huge, massive advantage between the top half and the bottom half. But I do think that the actual depth of players who are, you would consider grass court specialists, there isn't many of them in this draw. There's not many people in the draw that you can turn around and say, yes, these are the players that I think are going to do well. And it does look a tournament where the top 2 in the betting are going to be very, very hard to beat. I think if you look at it, the depth of it, you know, there's other players in there, but when you look at the nuts of their bolts of their grass court career, it's very limited.
Certainly is. Now, if the seedings, the quarterfinals go according to the seedings, I should say, it's a 32-player draw. There are no buys, but in the quarterfinals, you would get top seed Samsonova against Lulu Sun, who, of course, had that great run at Wimbledon last year. Magda Linette would play Anastasia Potapova. Jinyu Wang would play Elise Mertens. And Yekaterina Alexandrova would face Veronika Kudermetova, which was the 2023 final. Let's have a look at the outright odds. As you say, those top 2 seeds, Samsonova, Alexandrova, at the top of the betting. Alexandrova, the plus 330 favourite. Samsonova, plus 350. Elise Mertens and Maria Sakkari, plus 750. Quite surprised to see Sakkari that short because she hasn't done a hell of a lot on grass in the past. Anastasia Potapova and Danielle Collins, $10. Bianca Andreescu, last year's runner-up, $12. Magda Linette, $14s. Katerina Siniakova, $18s. $22 bar those. I mean, I suppose if you're looking at dangers outside the seeds, who have we got? We've got Andreescu wildcard in the top half. Danielle Collins in the bottom half. But as you say, there's not a great deal of depth in this tournament.
No, it really isn't. I mean, there's a lot of qualifiers still coming to the draw, so there could be someone come through with the qualification that we haven't even looked at the and you know could potentially do a shock. There's no real advantage in the top half or the bottom half, and I think this is a really, really difficult one to find any real edge or value. I like the front 2, and I'm not going to have a bet on this tour. I'm just going to stick with Navarro this week. I mean, hopefully you can find something better than me, but I think Samsonova is playing good tennis, and I like the idea of players who do well on their not preferred surface. So Samsonova's done very, very well on clay this year, and she did really well at the French Open, where she reached the last 16. I think it was she reached the last 16. She got beat by Zheng in the last 16, but she took a set of her 6-1, which is
that was close.
And took her close. She also got to the final of Strasbourg, another clay event. These are kind of the results that you wouldn't expect from her. She is a big server. She's a grass quarter rather than a clay quarter. So she ticks every single box here. The only box she doesn't tick on statistical is the failure of the number 1 seed in this tournament, who's only ever won it once in 15 years. So that's a little bit of a worry. But I don't see any potential problems in that top half of the draw. Potapova is someone who I like as a player, but I don't think her grass court form isn't that great. Sun, was it a flash in the pan last year at Wimbledon? The results would suggest so. Andreescu got to the final last year, but blighted by injuries. So I think Samsonova will fairly comfortably come through that top half of the draw, but she's plus 350. As the week goes on, the weather gets quite hot here. It gets very hot towards the end of the week, and the hotter conditions, the quicker it will play, which will suit Samsonova. So I don't want to be a favourite better, but I think that it's very, very hard not to make a case for her in the top half of the draw. And in the bottom half of the draw, again, I mean, Alexandrova has won this tournament twice before. She had a very, very good run at the French Open where she reached the last 16 when she got beat by Coco Gauff. And the only person I thought at the price who could potentially trouble them was Veronika Kudermetova, who opens up proceedings against her sister. And she is 22-1 with Bet Rivers. I think she'll bet the better of Danielle Collins. I think she's got the better clay court, the grass court game. But then she'll run into Alexandrova in the quarterfinals, and the two of them played at the French Open. And Alexandrova blew her off court, 6-2, 6-2. And for that match, he started as a minus 250 favourite. So I don't, on a grass court, I think it's going to be very hard for Kudermetova to challenge Alexandrova. So she's got a good head-to-head record against as well. So unfortunately, on this tournament, I think it's going to be a clash between the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. So for that reason, I'm going to stand down and not going to have a bet because I don't know which one to go with. I think it'll be a 50-50 call if they got to the final. They've won it the last 3 years. Their route to the final is, I don't see any real problems for either of them, really. And I don't trust anyone. I don't trust Mertens. I don't trust Sakkari. I couldn't have Collins on this surface. The only one I thought potentially was Kudermetova. But if she runs into Alexandrova, then the chances are, well, the big chance is that she's going to get beat in the quarterfinals because she's got a 3-0 losing record and Alexandrova is in great form. So I think the two favourites win it, make match in the final, but I don't know who's going to call. I don't know which way to call. So I'm not going to have an official play here, Rory. I'm going to keep my money in my pocket for this tournament.
Yeah, I saw it similar way. But I did like Kudermetova at the price. I thought she'd be half that price, to be honest. But as you say, that record against Alexandrova is a worry, and they are due to meet in the quarterfinals. I think the price differential makes her potentially a bet. And, she was in the doldrums last year, but she reached the final here the year before. And this year she has shown some promising signs. Yes, she got well beaten by Alexandrova at Roland Garros, but I thought $22 was enough to tempt me. So I'd go half a point each way on Kudermetova. But as you say,
well, we've got to hope that Alexandrova gets beat. We don't know the qualifier she's going to play, so that could be interesting. Siniakova, could she beat her, or Belinkova? Siniakova could give her a game. Then we've got to hope that Kudermetova gets past Collins. So Kudermetova's route, first of all, she's got to play her sister, which is always difficult. However, you're playing your sister is going to be hard. Then she plays Danielle Collins, which is difficult. Then she runs in Alexandrova. That's not the easiest of route, is it really? But I thought she was the one I looked at, but when I delved down into the actual analytics of her previous matches against Alexandrova, they were so one-sided that it was very, very hard for me to make a case. If she was in a different half of the draw at a shorter price, I could probably do that. But I think if they do run into each other in the quarterfinals, then I just can't see Alexandrova not winning fairly comfortably.
Yeah, well, when they met in the final 2 years ago, it was a serving duel. It was a bit of a serve bot exhibition, and Alexandrova won in the third set tiebreak. And I remember watching it, thinking, "Oh, these two could go far at Wimbledon," and obviously they didn't. Although, having said that, Kudermetova has the. I'm pretty sure I saw this. The last two Wimbledons, she's lost to the eventual winner. So it was Krejcikova last year, and who was it the year before? Vondrousova, exactly. So she's lost to both of them early on, I might add. But who knows? That might happen again this year. But Kudermetova, I thought, just because of the price, as I say, I thought she'd be half that price. And you look at the light of Mertens at Sakkari at plus 750. I mean, I don't know where that comes from. Andreescu is interesting. I almost said she's injured. She's not, for a change, but with Andreescu, the injury, the next injury isn't too far away.
Give it a week.
It's never too far away, unfortunately. Kudermetova for me, half a point each way at $22. So that is where we are with this week's grass court. I say warm-ups, still a bit of a way to Wimbledon, but it's the start of the build-up to the third Grand Slam of the season. It's a great time of year for a tennis fan. And Nigel, you've been you've recorded the ATP show.
Yeah.
With Sean. Where are they this week?
We are in Hertogenbosch as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we're in Stuttgart, which is one of the quickest tournaments of the year. So the grass really kicks off straight away. And he's got some really big prices. And not unlike Sean to go for an outsider, but he's got some nice big outside prices to get you stuck into the grass court season. And a great reasoning why he wants to go with us and why he wants to fade the favourites on the outright market. So, yeah, it's all happening. The countdown to Wimbledon. You know, we've got the World Club Championship starting.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when's that start?
I think it's next weekend.
Oh my goodness!
It's supposed to be a rest period for us. But it seems to get busier and busier.
It's got to be better than England.
Oh, I was actually contemplating going there. I was so glad I didn't bother going.
Just for those who don't know, England managed to win 1-0 at Andorra, who are one of the minnows, I think it's fair to say, of European football, and it was a bit dire, wasn't it?
It was. Being very kind on that right now.
But that's the soccer. Of course, you know, we'll have all the preview and the build-up to the Club World Cup, which goes on for ages, doesn't it?
It's a month, isn't it? Yeah. All on Betting Weekly Live next week.
Yeah.
New handicappers joining us as well. So new handicappers doing this. Loads of new content. Soccer, tennis, the American sports, baseball and basketball, NBA finals, UFC now. Paul the Hitman Hughes, he's giving you winners on the UFC. It's all happening.
Certainly is. Of course, if you want any good tips and good betting advice, this is the place to come at Because We Win. Nigel, thanks as always. Always good to catch up. And of course, we've got Betting Weekly Tennis Live this week. We'll be hopefully looking at some of this action in play. The men's tournaments and the women's tournaments, as you say, Rosmalen and Stuttgart for the men, and Rosmalen and Queen's Club for the women. For those of you who haven't quite got it, the men's Queen's Club tournament is the following week, but this is the first time the women are going to be playing at Queen's Club, and very much looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us on Betting Weekly WTA, and we'll see you again next week.